It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another amazing episode of the EdTech Mondays Nigeria show. I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa, and it's good to be here for another week of interesting conversation. Last week, we spoke about the role technology plays in transforming education, and I can bet you that is one episode you do not want to miss. So you can go back and watch or listen on Spotify at EdTech Mondays Nigeria or on YouTube at CC Hub Nigeria to follow the conversation. This week, we'll be having another interesting conversation, and we'll be discussing accelerating EdTech financing for equity and access. Accelerating EdTech financing for equity and access. And I have an interesting guest with me on the show that has a wealth of experience and is going to be telling us all about this topic that right now might seem like a lot of buzzwords. So join me as I introduce our guest today, Gbenga Agoye. Gbenga Agoye is an investment professional with a proven track record of funding and supporting innovative solutions, addressing pressing challenges within the African markets. With a keen eye for identifying impactful ventures, he specializes in facilitating the scaling of solutions that offer tangible solutions to the continent's diverse needs. Let's welcome Gbenga Agoye. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with this. What's your opinion on the current state of EdTech financing in Nigeria? There's so much going on in that space.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think the answer is short and straight to the point. It's underfunded, right?
Wow.
Look at the numbers. Africa as a continent, last year, 2023, we saw that education, EdTech solution received less than 1% funding in terms of the total funding that goes.
That came into the country.
Funding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, less than 1%, right? And that speaks a lot. So you extrapolate that to Nigeria and you see that.
Sorry, this 1% is Africa.
Yeah, less than 1%.
Wow.
Right, funded.
So imagine how that 1%, which then trickles down to Nigeria.
Yeah, so you can imagine that, right? So there's a lot to be done, right, in terms of funding. But the good news is this, right? The sector is receiving a lot of attention. I mean, we've seen a lot happening recently from the funders building a lot of amazing solutions, and of course, investors developing that curiosity and trying to explore opportunity within EdTech space. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of underfunded. But looking at the trajectory, compare last year to previous years, there's an upward trend. And looking at the buzz and the interest that we've seen among investors, we see that a lot's going to happen in that space this year and next year.
Great. So riding on what you've just said now, and that there is the buzz and there's excitement and growing interest in EdTech.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, that you would look out for? Since, when we were reading out who you are, you mentioned that you have a keen eye.
Yeah.
So what are some of the factors considered when evaluating EdTech startups in terms of scalability, market potential, and the impact on the educational outcomes that make them attractive for investment?
I mean, good question, right? So I like the way you categorize it: scalability,
market potential and the impact.
So in terms of scalability for every investor, they want to ask, in terms of the infrastructure upon which your solution is built on, how scalable will your solution be, right? Do you need to tweak a lot of things when you have a lot of demand for it? So do you have an infrastructure that can work even when you increase users on your platform? Also, there's a question around even why you scale. What is the cost of your scale, right? So for us as an investor, we are very much keen on solutions that have good model that can really drive scalability as it is. Market potential is a question of, so who are you solving for, right? Where are they? How many are they? How large can it become, right? Can they really afford this? Instead of pressing your focus, can they really afford this?
So you're not just building wonderful products. Can people afford the products?
And also, even if the direct users can afford it, have you been able to identify the payers, right? Because in some cases, users are not the customers. They're not the one paying for it. So have you as a founder really figured that out, really? So the market potential drives deeper into the understanding of the founders in terms of the market they are playing. Do they know the size of the market? Do they know the people they are serving? Have they been able to hack who pays for it in the long run? So those are the conversations that we have with founders, and I think it's interesting to see that a lot of understanding in that space at the moment, and we're excited about that. The last bit in terms of the learning outcome. Now, I haven't talked about scalability, I haven't talked about the market potential. One thing that is very keen for us as well, and personally, is to what extent is the efficacy of your solution. You are not just building in silo, you are building towards an end, right? So are you able to identify the goal, the learner's goal, right? So how efficacious is your solution in delivering this learning goal? So it's very important in terms of you building something amazing, something differentiated, but much more, it also have to be something that drives learning outcome. And yeah, pretty much that.
You have just given our listeners and every potential EdTech startup founder a, what do they call it now, expo, right? on what they should do to make themselves attractive for investment. I think this is a conversation that we need to have, because you hear so many people say, oh, we have an amazing project, we have an amazing solution, and I don't know what else to do with it. How do I get that supporting fund that will help me reach a lot more people? So thank you for this. This has been very valuable. The next question is, what role do government policies and regulations play in shaping the investment landscape for EdTech in the country?
Yeah, I mean, another amazing question, right? So if you look at it, you can't build outside of government. And what do I mean by this? Government is a very important stakeholder when you are building a tech solution.
True.
Because there's going to be policies, right? There's going to be initiatives. So the role they play is they need to be this handshake between the different stakeholders, especially government. It has to be very open in terms of, so government ideally should set the key agendas and vision and policy on how EdTech solutions to be used by learners, how it should be integrated into schools, right? So it is very important that government makes this very clear to everyone that this is our standard. So, for example, UBEB, all those very important agencies needs to be very plain as to what is obtainable and required so that when founder is building something, for example, you're building a digital content related solution, and you are not conversant with what policy guides the kind of solution or what kind of curriculum you should deliver at the level you are delivering for, say K to 12, right? So it is important that government is very clear to founders what policy, what direction are they looking at, such that eventually when I build something, it is still relevant to the set of person I want to deliver it to. Because ultimately, for adoption of my solution, I need to speak to government. I can't just build a solution and go to primary school and say, you must use it. No, it has to be approved. But if there is no clarity, if there's no way defined
on what you can do, and what you cannot do, even from the design point, so it guides how you work.
It's going to be a problem, right? Okay. And imagine I build something, and in the midst of everything, government said, no, you can't do this. An investor already put the money into it. It's going to be a problem, right? So there has to be that very level playground, explicit definition of the framework on policy, so that there can be proper handshake between the government setting the policy and founders building, right? So it really helps the investment landscape, because people will know what to build, how to build, and the policy that guide what they do. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for your response. And when you were speaking, what I was thinking is, I believe that the government should maybe have a way they can identify people who are building for EdTech, or maybe even the EdTech builders, the developers and the founders, put themselves together as a group and can be identified, so that the government has a sort of, I don't want to call it education, but let's say mass education thing, where they help them know what policies exist. And, if a policy is going to be designed for something, they also co-create what the policies could be. And from the get-go, all hands are on deck. Everybody understands what is supposed to be done or what already exists. Then when you go against it, you don't know that you are flouting an existing policy. So the government also needs to, on their own, educate people, make it more accessible, put it on their websites, right? If they have functional websites or other ways of putting it out there
Yeah.
so people know what's available and
Yeah.
know what they can do and not do, or
Exactly.
what needs to be improved on.
Exactly. I mean, as you said, there has to be that constant engagement.
Yes.
And updating, because I know things changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that me as a founder, when I'm building, I'm in sync with government, and whatever I build is still relevant to different level of education that I'm targeted, especially solution that are student facing and teacher facing, right? And curriculum driven as well, right? So it's important for that update to among government and people building as well. That sync is important.
Okay. Thank you very much for this, Gbenga. To my next question, how can investors collaborate with the government and non-profits to ensure EdTech financing addresses equity and access challenges? What role does the government play? Because, most times when we hear about some funding rounds with not just EdTech, but let's say EdTech as this is our focus, we are not sure, we can't really trace what all of this funding is going to. And for us, we want to see that a lot more of this funding is going to access, that is opening up, access as it stands to a lot more people who wouldn't ordinarily or originally have gotten these solutions, to people who have been disenfranchised, maybe due to geographical issues like flooding, as we had the year before or 2 years ago, or communal issues as we have IDPs and the rest. So I want to say that when this funding do come in for EdTech solutions and startups and the rest, that it goes to access, it goes to equity. It's not just funding programs or solutions that continue to remain elitist and can only take care of the 1% of the 1% of people who actually have education problems in the country.
Yeah.
So how do you think, as an investor, you would want the government to play to ensure or position themselves to ensure that funding go to solutions that are driving accessibility, that are driving equity for education in Nigeria? We know the problems we have in education in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you for that. So this is
It's a loaded
interesting.
question.
Because think about it, right? So government can't tell me as an investor who to invest in, right?
It's your money, we know.
It's my money. So, but one thing is that there are layers to these things. There's commercial capital, there is equity-free funding.
What is equity free
So
funding?
equity-free funding is more like grant, right?
Okay, just
Grant,
take the money and
I'm not taking
optimize your
ownership.
product.
Yeah, I'm
No
not
take
taking
ownership
in
of your
business,
okay.
right? So the way I see this is now the role of government is that they would, create such environment that allows for, distribution of this solution, right?
Okay.
Providing adequate infrastructure that drive access. So that's one thing government can do. And this is why I say this, right? Now it's about layers. So as founder build solution, now they need to get the solution to this set of persons. Because when you talk about accessibility and equity, this set of persons, like the remote area, it's a question of infrastructure, it's a question of connectivity, it's a question of power, right? So the first thing is government even creating that environment where these guys can be able to get this infrastructure to access these solutions, right? So if that is in place, then the founders can get the solution to them, right? For investor, of course, investor as well, there are certain investors that are very keen on solutions that really impact this set of persons. So myself as an investor as well, I should put it as part of my consideration. To what extent are you designing your go-to-market strategy and your channel of distribution to really capture this set of persons? Bearing in mind that when government has done a good job in giving the infrastructural requirement like connectivity, like power, right? Myself as a founder as well, I'm also considering this set of persons. For example, founder is making sure that their product or their solution is offline enabled. It allows people to be able to even require very low internet requirement, low buy sites, that kind of stuff, right? So I think it's layer. So government has a role to play in infrastructure, connectivity, and those kind of stuff, power supply. Funders as well need to build with these people in mind. Investors as well, they need to as well consider in their consideration to what extent are these solutions really meeting this set of persons' need within that person. So I think it's a mix of all things. As much as government can tell me who to deploy to, right? Those handshakes should be there, right? To really drive that inclusivity, as you said, to drive the access as well, right?
So at the end of the day, when we're saying, EdTech financing for equity and access, some things are basic that need to be done.
Exactly.
There needs to be the infrastructure
Yeah.
laid down
Yeah.
and, existing already.
Yeah.
So is it devices?
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
connectivity? Is it
Yeah.
power?
Yeah.
When all of these things are available,
Yeah.
then you can now say, okay, if you want to fund someone, you have to
Yeah.
ensure that you would plug into an already existing framework, and maybe it could be some of the things you tell them.
Yeah.
Maybe the terms for what the funding.
Yeah, so what I would do as an investor is like, okay, because come to think about it, there's also mass market. When we talk about market potential, there's also part of the market potential that you have to reach. But it's just the fact that if those things are not there, they are capping the extent to which you can reach those markets, right? So that's why I'm saying that, of course, I want to back a founder that has factored this thing into places, right? I've talked about this and have a good relationship to really. Sometimes it's about how you can harness your relationship to get this thing right. For example, you have a relationship with telco. The question of affordability and connectivity. Probably you have a very amazing package with telco that allow you to reach these IDP guys, right? Maybe you kind of build a solution that device is sort of solar smart, right? That the power challenges. So we want to see founders
who are thinking that way,
right?
okay.
That, okay, there's a device, there's an infrastructure gap. How am I going to build my solution to enable this kind of presence, right? Because we're talking about digital solution. Digital solution has to be hosted on devices, and if those devices has limitation, the issue of accessibility and equity is going to be in question. So we're looking for founders that are innovative around these things, right? So I mean, your question is amazing, but I think there's a lot of handshake from government to founders that is building with these guys in mind, and also founders that are very deliberate in building infrastructure and channels to really get this product to these guys in spite of the limitations.
Dear founder, I hope you're taking notes, because Gbenga is dropping a lot, or has dropped and is still dropping a lot of nuggets. You've said in so many words what you would look out for if you were identifying education technology startups to invest in. Thank you so much for this. In closing, this is my final question.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of EdTech financing evolving in Nigeria? And I ask this because so many people tell you they will not touch EdTech, when it comes to funding with a 10-foot pole. They feel it's not very profitable. But as a financier, what's the future for EdTech financing?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Shielu. We are very bullish about EdTech.
Wow.
Right, because we see it as a way to really solve education problem at scale, right? So we're very bullish about it. And Oluwaku projected that by 2030, it's a $10 trillion market, right? So there's huge potential.
Yes.
It's driven by, of course, people talk about population. Population. A lot of people are going to school and graduate. So there's huge potential. But the question is, where are the opportunities, right? I mean, one thing that we've done internally is the fact that we've been able to map this space, and we've identified several areas where we see great opportunities in terms of the future of EdTech, financing EdTech in Nigeria and in Africa. And there are different categories, taken from student-facing solutions, right? You can imagine that we're having a lot of gaps in terms of driving efficacy of outcome, efficacy of product, delivery outcome. So there is that opportunity for solutions that are very innovative in really optimizing for efficacy, right? When I mean efficacy, like getting people to really acquire the needed knowledge, right, in a very innovative way, right? So there is that opportunity for solutions that are very innovative in terms of really driving efficacy. When I mean efficacy, outcome and attainment of education, right? That's one. Also, we see the opportunity in terms of teacher-facing solutions. When it comes to gone were the days, right, where teachers deploy conventional way managing classes, and there's a conversation about teacher-student ratio. But when technology comes to the mix, right, there's a way you can really do more with little, right? So we see opportunity in solutions that are built to really help teachers to be more efficient in driving that
learning instead of all those activities.
Exactly.
And not exactly
so
learning.
Innovative solutions that teacher facing, we see opportunity there as well. We also see opportunity in system facing. There are a lot of LMSs out there, but there are certain ones that are built with an edge. And when I mean edge, now I talk about teacher, right? There are solutions that are built facing teacher, but with that community edge, right? We also see systems that are built to really help digitalize school operation, but with an edge as well, right? Something differentiating, right? So there's opportunity here as well, especially when it comes to now data sharing, data synthesis, right? So we see opportunity as well. Also the FLN space, right?
What is FLN?
FLN, so foundational literacy
and
and numeracy.
Okay.
These are foundation for every child, right? So we see opportunity there as well because
especially with our numbers.
Exactly.
I'm always saying out of school kids, or kids that are not learning.
Exactly. So we see opportunities there as well. So innovative solutions are really solving for that, really driving the efficacy of acquiring learning, right? Also, we see great opportunity in workforce and digital skill. Now, our population of Nigeria is increasing, and it said that about 50% of that population are less than 20 years, right? And this set of persons, they are the future of work kind of person, and they need to get a dignified work. So we see opportunity on solutions that are very differentiated. And when I mean differentiated, they have thought through the end-to-end, right? Not just giving skill, they're also mentoring to the extent that people get job,
and job placements,
dignified job, right? So we see big opportunities there, right? So those are the areas that we see in terms of the future of EdTech, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa at large.
So as an investor, you're saying that there will be a lot of solutions that are addressing all of these areas you have highlighted, and you would be willing to finance and fund them to reach a lot more people, to optimize their solutions and solve all of these problems that you have highlighted.
Exactly. I mean, what I'm keen on is looking for those solutions that are differentiated, right? You are differentiated and you are solving for very pressing need, valid problem within education at scale, right? Once you are very innovative, differentiated, you're really solving valid need, you know those set of persons you are solving for, and you can scale that. I mean, hoping to back you. Yeah.
Thank you. This has been an interesting conversation. I feel like you took me back to business school and, and you've given us EdTech Financing 101. So our listeners, what do you think about the future of EdTech financing? Do you think this is a sector that is going to be seeing a lot more attention? Do you think more investors would want to play in this field, especially after hearing how Gbenga has painted the future of EdTech in Nigeria? Would love to hear from you. Send us a message or a WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. We would love to hear from you. You could also join our Telegram channel or our WhatsApp channel on EdTech Mondays Nigeria to continue the conversation and meet like-minded people like you who want to improve education leveraging technology. Gbenga, it's been an amazing time with you on the show today.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
It's been another amazing episode on the EdTech Mondays Nigeria show. We would love to hear from you, so do send me your feedback. Till next time, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. It's bye for now.
EdTech Monday is proudly brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.